Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. And, well, there are several parts of the world where the geopolitics is so sensitive that you need to exercise extreme caution just to avoid catastrophe. Al Murray once described the Middle East as being a place where even just talking about it could make things worse. So not really the sort of place you want Donald Trump interfering in. And in Trump style, the orange one declared that the Israel-Iran war was over. Although at the time he said it, the two were still bombing the crap out of one another. And even at the point of recording this, there are still threats of further violence traded between them. So maybe Trump should have told the both of them that there was a ceasefire. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So, as I say, at the time of recording this, things are happening, right? The USA and Israel had both said that the war was effectively over, although now Israel is saying that Iran has sent missiles through with the ceasefire in place, and Iran saying, no, we haven't. Iran, of course, had not formally confirmed that they had agreed to the ceasefire, even though that's sort of implied at the moment. A lot of fish shaking has gone around. Maybe the war is over. Who knows? But it's an insane period of time. You know, particularly after yesterday when we heard that Iran launched missiles towards an American airbase in Qatar. You know, our friend over on Politics Social, Graham Hughes, is of course the first person in the world to travel to every country without ever using flight to do so. So I was wondering, maybe those skills would be highly prized right now, because getting on a plane, especially to or from or even around the United States, might be squeaky bum time if Iran was up for taking America on. Yesterday, they launched an initial strike at a US-run base in Qatar. Although the Americans run the base, it is used by multiple countries. Seemed insane enough to invite further US strikes on Iran, but to draw other countries in as well seemed foolhardy. Unless, of course, it was all just a big scam. If you want the short version, it's looking like it was all just a big pre-arranged scam. It's not just Britain which is incapable of grown-up politics, it seems. If Iran were actually trying to give the USA a bloody nose, I don't think this strategy is the way to do it. Netanyahu would obviously be very pleased with himself. He'd have manoeuvred the US and Iran into direct conflict, which neither of their leaders wanted. I don't know why Trump was persuaded to launch the weekend strikes against Iran in the first place, especially given that he and most of the people around him, as well as the wider MAGA supporters, were dead against the strikes. Obviously, I cannot know what was said behind closed doors. Maybe I can speculate. What if the Republican hawks had told Trump, look, the situation is as it is. Israel's launched this attack. We need to find a quick way out of it. A precision strike on the nuclear sites would be all that is needed to do that. Iran wouldn't dare escalate because that would invite a full-scale response from the USA, which would result in the Iranian regime falling, right? If so, then news of a strike on an airfield would sound like there maybe had been a terrible miscalculation. And that miscalculation, I suspect, would have been on the part of both Trump and Khamenei. Trump is probably in the better position because, you know, he would be able to achieve military victory. He would leave a right old mess just like we did with Iraq. But militarily, he could win. Although if Hegseth is running things, expect a clown show before it's all over. Oh, sorry, Mr. President. We seem to have accidentally emailed our battle plans to Tehran. Nonetheless, there would still be American casualties. There would be scenes of Americans being flown home with US flags draped across their coffins. Trump would be expected to meet at least some of them on arrival. What's the MAGA base going to think about that? Would they just blame Iran? Or would they wonder why Trump got himself involved in the first place? Khomeini, on the other hand, I guess would be in a worse position, trapped between losing power by being seen as weak for not attacking Americans or losing power by being bombed out by the USA. After all, he can't imagine that Trump wouldn't hit back. I also wondered what effect it would have yesterday when Israel continued to bomb Iranian nuclear sites, somewhat giving the game away that the US hadn't actually obliterated them as Trump had suggested, and then Trump himself openly talking about regime change. But it still seemed insane for Iran to strike at an American airbase unless Khomeini really believes he's sunk. If he doesn't, but then surely he's sunk if he does. And after the strikes, Iran announced they had launched its, quote, mighty and victorious response. Yet all the missiles were reportedly taken out by Qatari defences, apart from one which missed. Qatar, of course, were furious. Their airspace had been violated. They had to divert flights away from Doha, which is a hugely busy airport. And of course, Qataris are threatened by strikes in their own territory more than Americans. But then we also discovered that the base had been evacuated in advance. Basically, Iran had tipped them off that they were going to send missiles so that they could look tough for their own supporters, but weren't interested in risking the lives of people who might shoot back. So basically looking like we've got a bit of a dance going on here. Iran and the US in cahoots behind the scenes. I'll tell you what, we'll fire some of the shittest missiles we've got at your air base. You get your people out, get your defences ready to shoot them down. We'll look tough. You don't have to retaliate because nobody got hurt. Some people will be pissed off at missing their flights, but that's about it. And maybe this dance is being choreographed into a winding down of tensions whereby Trump doesn't risk having to explain to his public why Americans are coming home in coffins, and Khamenei gets to tell Tehran that, we've struck back at the great Satan. If only they could both tell Bibi to stop prattling about. And indeed, Trump's initial response, it was hours later, was to talk about maybe Iran would like to negotiate now that they've let off a bit of steam. So you're going, yeah, okay, basically a pointless display of toxic masculinity here between bullshit merchants in Tehran and Washington, D.C. Trump then seemed to openly confirm this by not only describing the attack as weak, thus not needing to retaliate, but he explicitly thanked Iran for giving them advanced warning. He literally thanked Iran in the same Truth Social post about Iran launching missiles at an American base. Because if Iran were going to escalate, why would they launch an attack which was going to just be pissing in the wind? If you wanted to really challenge Trump, you would launch an unexpected attack to inflict maximum casualties. You would probably also, if possible, not target a base where other countries have people. Or maybe you wouldn't launch conventional attacks at all. Maybe you'd trigger some terror attacks in America itself. That would also invite dire retribution, but any meaningful attack against Americans is going to do that. Now, of course, Trump is, to put it diplomatically, mercurial. To put it more accurately, a highly suggestible moron. He could decide to declare all-out war tomorrow. But it looks like Trump is just playing his part in the pantomime to wind things down. Neither Trump nor Khamenei want war, only Netanyahu. Which is probably why he's agitating to claim that Iran has breached the ceasefire. Trump doesn't want to get embroiled in a protracted foreign war, which kills American citizens. He doesn't generally want to get involved even when American lives aren't at risk. And it will come with economic consequences as well. A recession, which actually may well be underway in America, would become certain, and if already going to happen, become deeper and longer. As for Khamenei, obviously he does not want to be on the wrong end of a US military bent on regime change and not all that bothered about leaving Tehran standing to do it quickly. Also, he probably isn't seriously trying to become a nuclear power anyway. I know we can't be absolutely certain, but he personally has a long history of being opposed to them, and it was always going to be the case that if the US didn't like their nuclear program, they would drop bombs on it, and to hell with international law. Iran will surely want a nuclear deal, it just needs to make sure it gets the trade benefits from it. So what it looks like here is that the Israeli-Iran war began with lies, that Iran was close to having nuclear weapons when US intelligence is adamant, no, they were not. And they don't even believe they're trying to build nuclear weapons. And it may be ending in lies, that each side gets to claim that it scared the other into peace. Each side basically wants to claim that it had the last shot. So as alarming as all this is for some people, and I'm certainly not suggesting we all just chill because it'll be fine. This is Donald Trump meddling in the Middle East. And as I say, Netanyahu's still agitating. Nothing to be chill about. But there is every chance that this particular shitstorm comes to a fairly rapid conclusion now, because the only person who wants war is Netanyahu. Trump wants trade, Iran wants trade. Iran do a nice line in pistachios and are the 10th biggest exporter of oil. Who doesn't want cheaper pistachios? I love pistachios. Pistachio ice cream. Pistachio lots of things, really. We even had a pistachio cake layer at my wedding. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and for more content you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.